Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for His Excellency Espen Rikter-Svendsen, Ambassador of Norway.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, and thank you for showing up at this extremely important event, which I hope will bring some of these issues forward, raising awareness, but also being an arena for so many different stakeholders to get together and meet other stakeholders, and hopefully then also to make new progress. So I was a little bit wondering why I was supposed to say anything here, because this is far outside what I do, I thought. But then I began to think a little bit more, and it started to make a bit more sense, because we're talking about trade, international in its foundation, and we are talking about the parameters that that enable or disable trade. Trade, by the way, is of course how we make our living. We have the global economic system. So just a few points about myself. I graduated from the University of Oslo as a lawyer. So there's this law thing in my backpack. My first job after graduation was in a tech company. And what did we do? This was back in the 1980s. We digitalized securities trade in Norway. And of course, as was the case everywhere at that time, shares and bonds, these kind of things, all required documents, papers, and we had to get away with those. So I was working as a legal consultant in actually preparing new legislation, enabling us to replace the papers with electronic registrations. 1984. So I thought, well, this is familiar ground to me. And then a few years later, I became a diplomat. I was taken on in the Norwegian Foreign Service. And what do we do in the Foreign Service? Well, we promote international cooperation. And trade, by its nature, is international. So to sum up, really, in what we are talking about here, you need the lawyers, because you need to do something about legislation. You need to make rules. You need to adapt rules, change rules. You need to harmonize rules. You need to make global rules, global systems and standards. And of course, you need the technology. And we have the technology. Not least, I mean, one of the biggest areas of progress since I was working in this tech sector is that we now have the global mobile networks. Not least here in Bangladesh. You all heard about earlier this morning about the wonderful Grameen phone, which has sort of digitalized and revolutionized Bangladesh in so many ways. So you need all these three things, which are me. You need law, you need technology, and you need international cooperation. And then it's the brutal truth. I mean, national governments, I'm working for one, have sometimes a tendency to look at their country as a sort of a closed entity and the only thing that matters. And we don't need to care about what goes on outside. This is no longer the case, as we all know. We need this international part, and we need the governments, the national governments, to work together with other national governments and international bodies to enable these global structural changes that are so important to help us in speeding up and making safer and making greener international trade. So this is why I suddenly started to feel that I was, in a way, a little bit comfortable in this setting and in this on these issues. I want to say that this discussion we just had was extremely fruitful, insightful, and enabled me also to catch up a little bit on what's happened in the past 30 years since I left that sector. Now, what I want to say, since I am working at the moment in Bangladesh, that this technology and internationalization of trade is an extreme enabler for Bangladesh as well, for Bangladesh to make its way in the world and to increase and continue its path to economic growth. But it's at the same time a very serious situation. This global trade thing, it's, as somebody said, it's a life or death issue, really. You have to be on board, you have to be a part of the game, you have to play, and preferably to be ahead of the others, but at least you have to play by the international rules. You have to get up in the morning and do your work, and you have to make some difficult decisions. But if you manage that, if you manage to sort of stay ahead and stay alert and stay updated, then I would say also for Bangladesh that this technology in trade is also an enabler in the sense that it's sector neutral. This paperless systems and all of this don't really take into account whether you're selling shoes or you're selling ready-made garments or you're selling computers or services or anything. So it's a way for Bangladesh also to diversify its export base, which I think we already talked about, is another thing on the wish list, of course. So on that upbeat note, thank you very much for listening to me, and good luck with the rest of this very interesting seminar. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ambassador.